All right, Madhavan Menon, the CMD of Thomas Cook India, joining us on the show today. Mr. Menon, good to have you with us. Let's talk about the revival that we're seeing in domestic travel, the kind of trends that you're observing, and whether or not you're still concerned about a second lockdown, which we are seeing somewhat in very select parts of the country.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure to be on ET now. Yes, we are beginning to see a slow and steady revival in the business, primarily around domestic tourism and some short-haul international tourism, which is primarily into the Maldives and into Dubai. Domestic destinations are obviously the obvious ones, which is Kashmir, Goa, and other parts of the country. But it's very heartening to see that business has begun to come back. Yes, one is aware that you will see a degree of uncertainty when there are certain spikes. But the reality is that with domestic airlines flying and the destinations still not seeing any major adverse reactions to it, I think this trend will continue over the next couple of months.
Okay, Mr. Menon, in terms of the Forex business as well, with very, very limited international travel at this point of time, what's really the outlook there?
The foreign exchange business has been the steadiest of the lot. It started coming back in June, and it has continued all the way through. The primary source of business there has been our prepaid card, which is being used as financial support by corporates who have their employees overseas. It's being used by students for their financial support as well as payment of fees. So we've seen a steady flow of business in that area. The money transfer business from overseas into India continues. So we've seen no change there. So the foreign exchange business has been steady. It has not sort of grown dramatically, but we've seen a few blips here and there. But, until international travel starts, you will not see foreign exchange back at its normal level.
Okay, fair enough. Hi, Mr. Menon. Avan joining in as well. There have been lots of fundraising plans as well the company has undertaken. Apart from that, after the revised buyback, what is the cash on books? What are your future fundraising plans as well?
Okay. So let me just sort of walk you through what has happened over the last couple of months. We, first of all, got permission from SEBI to withdraw the buyback offer. We are currently in a fundraising mode. We've sought and obtained regulatory approval and will now seek shareholder approval to issue optionally convertible preference shares to our majority shareholder Fairfax. Now, from a Fairfax point of view, this is reiteration of their support and belief in the fact that the Thomas Cook Group has the ability to rebound. It will also help us generate the necessary working capital as and when business comes back. We expect that the funding will be in place before the end of this quarter. The cash on the books remains comfortable at this point of time. And, even though Thomas Cook as a standalone basis has enough cash over several months, and there is a clear runway for that, the reality is that our concern was the other subsidiaries overseas as well as within India, which are taking time to revive because international borders are not open as yet. Countries are not still receiving tourists. So that is expected to take some time. But having said that, we've seen business come back in the UAE, where we have a company called Desert Adventures, which is seeing tourists flow into Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Another company, subsidiary called DEI, where we own 51%, which is into instant and photography, has also seen business revive in China as well as in the UAE. So we expect that, in the coming months, all these businesses will revive their business. Until such time they're able to support themselves, we will continue to support them.
Okay. And what about the overall impact that all of this has had on the financials? Naturally, it would be rough for companies such as you, but as things are picking up, as you just alluded to, Mr. Menon, when are you sensing a recovery in terms of your numbers?
The full recovery will happen in 2022. We will see a partial recovery in 2021, and my expectation is that post-June, we will see a speedier recovery. I'm very careful in using these words because I've been proven wrong in the past. We will see a speedier recovery. And my expectation is that tourist flow, as the vaccination drive spreads. I mean, you look at the classic case of India, which is now clocking anywhere between 2.7 and 2.8 million vaccinations a day. And you see that in the US, it's beginning to pick up in Europe now. Our expectation is that we will see traffic beginning to flow in the third quarter or the fourth quarter of the current calendar year. Having said that, another piece of good news is that the Seychelles will open to India tourists after they've seen what has happened in the Maldives. And my understanding is that in the first week of April, Air Seychelles will start operating flights into India.
Right. So give us a sense as to what the company's strategy has been in terms of your cash conservation, cost optimization during COVID, the balance sheet outlook, your short-term liquidity, etc.
So I think the first thing is that starting April last year, we cut costs. And right through this financial year, we have reduced our costs by more than 50%. Across the entire group. So that was the first step that we took. We right-sized all the companies within the group to ensure that we had the necessary employees. The third step that we took was to enhance the technology support that each of the companies within the group had. So for example, if you look at Thomas Cook and SOTC today, they can conduct all their transactions digitally in the retail space. If you look at our destination management business, TCI Sita, which is based out of Delhi, it's able to interact digitally with all its principals across the world. Similar steps are being taken across the group in all the countries that we operate in. So technology has been an important element. So if I look at cash conservation on one side, I look at the enhancement of technology, right-sizing of the organization, I believe that we are now ready for the return of business, and this is we believe we are at an optimal level right now, both from a cash point of view as well as the way we proceed going forward. But obviously, when business comes back, the working capital requirements will suddenly grow because we'll have to deal with vendors, we'll have to deal with the airlines and all sorts of activity. So that's primarily the reason why we're going through a fundraising exercise, which will be converted partly into equity, and the balance will be preference shares that will be repaid to our shareholder over a period of time.
All right. Fair enough. Mr. Menon, summer now, leisure travel, business travel, what are some of the trends you're anticipating? Internationally, do you see a pickup post maybe the coming quarter, the second half of the year? What really will be the preferred destinations then this time around, even domestically in the summer?
So my expectation is domestic tourism will dominate through the rest of this year. While international travel will slowly start coming back, most of it will be short haul. As I mentioned, the Maldives and Dubai are the preferred destinations. Another destination will be the Seychelles. We've had 3 groups that travel to Egypt. We are now getting bookings for Russia. So these are all trends that we are seeing. But obviously, the skies need to open, the borders need to open still and receive guests. We need to understand what governments will require. Right now, everybody is talking about an RT-PCR test. But the reality is, as more and more people get vaccinated, my expectation is that a vaccine passport will come, a digital passport will come into play. So all these trends are beginning to be witnessed. So my expectation is that domestic travel will continue to grow, international travel will follow. In terms of preferred destinations in India, I think Kashmir, Goa, Kerala should be back in action very soon. And some of the, where there is a lot of travel, adventure involved, like the hill resorts, all that is beginning to come back. And, we're seeing a lot of interest. For example, there's a lot of interest in hotels in Rajasthan, which are based in forts or, that sort of thing. So what was originally a drive-to holiday has now become a flying holiday. And my reading from all this is what was viewed as fear initially, the sentiment was fear, has now transformed into caution. And, we as the Thomas Cook India Group will continue to focus on taking care of hygiene, healthcare. These are all aspects that we will continue to insist on. So my expectation is that domestic tourism will continue to grow the way it is. It's growing at a very fast clip at the moment. Obviously, it's a low base effect. But my expectation is that it will continue to go through this year, and it will continue over the next couple of years. That will not change. 2022, we will see international travel come back full swing. My expectation is that we will see at least most of the 2019 levels being achieved in 2022. And that's based on my expectation is that a lot of the people who travel would have been vaccinated by the third quarter of this year, and both destinations in Asia would have opened up completely, destinations in Europe would have opened up completely, and therefore we'd see a lot of travel across destinations. I think a point that I want to make is that there is a pent-up demand. That demand has not gone away. We are witnessing it. If I look at it domestically in destinations like Goa, where hotels are sold out. If you look at Kashmir today and try to get a room in Pahalgam, it's almost impossible. The new destinations we're beginning to see is people want to go diving in the Andamans. Hotels are beginning to fill up there. We're seeing, our subsidiary Sterling Holiday Resorts is anticipating, 70 to 75% occupancy levels starting April. So, the domestic travel is really picking up, and people are going anywhere that they can find reasonable rates as well as hotel rooms being available. I might add Shimla, which received a lot of tourists primarily from northern India, this year has seen an overflow of tourists who want to see snow. Now, the reality is that we're seeing different trends just popping up, and we literally spend every day trying to understand what a new trend is. And that is the exciting bit in terms of the revival for our business.
All right, we'll leave it there, Mr. Menon. Thanks so much for joining us. And that's about all the time we have on the show this morning. With that, from the entire team, it's goodbye for now.